Through the concrete cracks worn weary by work boots and high heels, through the concrete cracks showered in tears of sorrow, tears of joy, through the concrete cracks rumbled by reverberations of 100 years, a flower on the hill takes its first breath, and a grand hope springs. Welcome to the Spring Street podcast at the intersection of creation and destruction in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. And now, a word from the sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by Starship Kairos, a podcast studio available for bookings in downtown Los Angeles. Starship Kairos is where my guests and I make this show happen. Soundproofed, cozy, and equipped with professional audio gear, Starship Kairos is an ideal location for any type of podcast. Starship Kairos offers a full suite of services including content consultation, mixing and mastering, and custom jingle writing. For rates and booking, check them out on Instagram at Starship Kairos or click on the link in the description. And now, let's dive in. All right, man, we're live. Welcome to the Spring Street podcast at Starship Kairos. That's the name of the studio, by the way.
Awesome.
It's called Starship Kairos.
We're in the Starship right now.
We are in the Starship. We're headed to a different galaxy.
Okay, let's go. I'm ready. I didn't usually live in my own galaxy, so this works out.
Yeah, well, that's the whole reason that I brought you on. I wanted to find out about your galaxy, man. So, Nate, you are a chef. You've been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, I'm a chef by training, right? But I don't want that to define me, right? I think for the longest time, chefs have, chefs can hit a ceiling, I guess, and there is no ceiling for me. And so if I'm only viewed as a chef, I think I'm selling myself short, right? And I can go into more of that, but that's like, look at any industry right now. Nobody's just a musician.
It's true.
Right? Look who I'm sitting across from, right?
You got to wear a few different hats.
That's right. And if you only think of people in one-dimensional ways, like, I don't know. I don't think you're exercising your brain. I don't think you're doing yourself justice, and I definitely know you're not giving them credit.
Yeah.
Right? And
so how would you describe yourself to people?
Currently, for my vocation, I would say I'm the head of innovation for Chipotle New Ventures. What that means is any new business, any new things, I'm the head of innovation for culinary, right? I look at things from a food aspect, from a interest aspect. I just dive in and I look at it and I think about it, and then we see if we can actually make it a thing, right? A lot of what I do currently is top secret, so I can't really go into it. Other than we did just launch our first restaurant for New Ventures which is owned by Chipotle. So our new restaurant is called Farmesa.
It's delicious.
It's called Farmesa
really
Fresh Eatery. It's in Santa Monica on the 3rd Street Promenade. And you can get it ordered through DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates, all that, right? But, really, my vocation does not define me. And I've been cooking my whole life. I love food. I love everything about it. All I do every day, I think, is think about food. Like, I love it more than anything. But, at the same time, I also love life. I have a family. I have interests outside of the kitchen. I have interests outside of, my said vocation. It just so happens that food is also my passion.
Yeah.
Right. And without food, we can't live. So
that's true, man.
I'm in a good place.
It's true. I find the world of restaurants, hospitality, food so fascinating because it's one of the things that just hasn't changed from the dawn of time. We've always gathered around together, whether it was like around a fire or around a table to share a meal together, break bread.
I agree, and with that comes good things and also comes some challenges, right? It's like, if you look at this profession that I'm in, it is very, we'll call it barbaric, right?
It's cutthroat.
No, not, but even,
it can be.
Yes, for sure. But even from a tool aspect, right? It's like, you get the chefs out there. It's like, if we're not using fire, we're not cooking, know, and it's like, you get other chefs who are like, oh my gosh, you use a microwave? That means you're not a chef. And it's like, I think if you told me that, you're not a chef, right? Like if you can't think on the level of like, what is the future and where are we going with this? And, everything new should be explored and possibly celebrated. Right. And I think that's the only thing that's going to move us forward from an industry, but also from a personal aspect. Right. It's like, I get people tell me all the time, that their home stove, that they need flames on their home stove. Mm-hmm. And I wish I didn't have flames on my home stove, right?
Why is that?
Just a few things. One, actually, a flat surface is really nice to clean. Right?
Yes, that is very true.
With the burners, you get all the crudge in there. It's like, why even bother?
Yeah.
But also, what is being emitted into the air is not only not good for us,
right,
but also it's super inefficient way of heating. Right? It's like you have air coming all different directions. You have flames going everywhere. And so, I just find that we hold ourselves back, right? And I find that cooking and food gets held back by this, I don't know, nostalgia or this, I don't like, I guess kind of a closed-minded way of thinking.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if we never embraced baking soda. But nowadays the new baking soda is like xanthan gum. Everybody thinks xanthan gum is horrible, but like, I don't know, 20 years from now, every single person will be using xanthan gum.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of feel like maybe there's two different ends of a spectrum when it comes to food, being a traditionalist versus like being like an adventurer and an explorer. Like, what's the next frontier? Yeah. Do you think you're on that end of the spectrum, maybe?
Well, I think that I fit into my own galaxy.
Okay.
Because I constantly am forcing myself to be open, to be aware, and to think in a innovative way, right? And it's not something that comes natural. It's a daily practice, right?
Yeah.
I do things like I will order food that I know in my heart that I do not like.
Really?
Yeah. Right? To see why. And then I sit and ask myself, like, why don't I like this?
Yeah. What are some of those foods? What don't you like to eat?
Well, it's not even specifically items, it's scenarios. Like, for instance, if I'm ordering from a diner, like Mel's Diner. I love Mel's Diner.
Yeah.
Right?
Shout out to Mel's.
Yeah,
It's
right? I love Mel's Diner. Their milkshakes are incredible. Smash burger, incredible. Right? But am I going to go there for their salmon? Probably not. But am I going to not go there for the salmon? You know what I mean? And so I force myself to ask,
So you'll get the thing
I'll
that
get the salmon. Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, is it good? Is it bad? The last thing I ordered that from Mel's actually was chili fries. I just don't think that I'm going to get delivered chili fries that are good.
Yeah.
And they surprised me, and they were. You know what I mean? But if I held myself back in that moment, I wouldn't have had a moment of joy because I got down on those chili fries.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not going to lie. When I go out to eat, I feel like I usually just get the same thing.
Yeah. No, most people do.
I'm not super adventurous when I go out to eat.
Yeah, well, okay.
Which is crazy because normally in my life, like, I'm doing all sorts of new and different things to try to get new experiences. But when it comes to eating, like when I go for sushi, I'll get the exact same thing.
I get it.
Every single time.
I get it. But let's back up and actually explain why I can actually talk about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. Right? I think we should start at the beginning.
Yeah, so the beginning of time. My galaxy started, I was born in Ohio. Small town, super small town.
What's it called?
Greenville.
Okay.
Greenville, Ohio. Good, pretty wholesome town growing up. But I think today it's probably not the same. It's, I haven't been back for a while, but it was a good upbringing. I really enjoyed that small town feel, but I knew I wanted to get out as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And so I left. I went to culinary school in upstate New York at the Culinary Institute of America. And I knew I wanted to live in big cities, right? And so I moved to New York after that. I got kicked around for a little bit. I moved home to Cincinnati, or I moved back to Ohio. I lived in Cincinnati for a while. I moved to Seattle on a whim. And then I said, you know what? I want to live in another country. I moved to Italy. So I basically have taken this journey and just kept going. I came from this small town, good foundation, good. I loved food, but wasn't super adventurous.
Yeah.
But I took my culinary degree and I knew I could cook anywhere in the world. I knew I could work anywhere. I knew I could and I just had that drive and passion to go and see and so I lived in Italy, and after Italy
What part of Italy?
so I lived in Florence.
Okay. And then I also wanted to know, did you have a favorite spot growing up in your hometown? Favorite restaurant?
Yeah,
or like,
I did actually.
what was it?
Shout out to a place called Made Right.
Okay.
It's a loose meat sandwich,
Ooh.
right? And it's a brick building in my hometown, and for some reason, since before I was born, people have been sticking gum to the side of this wall, right? And so every time you go through the drive-through, it's just plastered with gum.
Nice.
And I think every 20 years or so they blast it off.
Really?
Yeah. But
Too much gum.
I grew up, and it's basically steamed ground beef with
Interesting.
steamed ground beef with a special seasoning. I have no idea what it is. Steamed soft bun,
Okay.
mustard, pickles,
Oof.
diced onion,
Oof.
the ground beef, and then wrapped up, and it steams in a little package. It is so good. And they do not have ketchup, and you cannot ask for ketchup. And if you even think about it, I think they kick you out.
I love that. And they're still there?
They're still there. I think
Oh,
it burned
amazing.
down, and then they rebuilt it,
Wow.
and they put the gum back up and everything.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So fast forward, you're in Florence.
Florence. I'm a small town kid from Ohio, you know, and I find myself in Florence, Italy. You know, I'm living by myself.
Yeah.
I'm learning to speak the language. I'm trying to talk to girls, and that is a no-go. Italian girls did not like American guys back then, or something. Or
Really?
they didn't like this American guy. I'll tell you that.
That's funny.
I also probably weighed 250 pounds, so that might have had something to
No
do with
way.
it. Yeah, I love pasta.
Can't blame you, man.
Yeah. After Italy, I decided that the best place to go for food in America would be California. Right? It's like, living in Italy really showed me that simplicity was what I wanted to chase. And I wanted to chase simplicity in food and the best ingredients. Now, before I lived in Italy, I cooked in a lot of French restaurants. It was very fine dining French, very rigid, not a lot of excitement, a lot of screaming and, throwing pans and such.
Yeah.
But once I got to Italy, I opened myself up to a whole new realm of food. And so I moved to California, ended up opening a restaurant, and I've lived on and off in California, I think, for the last 23 years between here and New York City.
Were you an owner at that time, or were you opening up someone else's restaurant
Yeah,
when
so
you came to California?
well, I moved to California, and I was actually just a cook. I worked in a restaurant in San Francisco, and it was a great experience. It was my first time living in California. It was the first .com kind of situation back in 2001. So this is pre 9/11.
Wow.
And I remember prices were sky high, restaurants were thriving, people were charging $50 entrees.
Yeah.
This is in 2001.
Wow.
Right? 9/11 happened, everything came to a crash, obviously. Our industry got ravished and rebuilt back then. And during that time, the country also went through a recession, right? And so
several years later,
yeah, so I had worked in fine dining for a long time, and coming out of that, 2001, 2002, 2003, people were wanting that comfort food, that homey food. And so my partners and I thought that opening a Southern Italian restaurant focused with Southern Italian wine, and the main focus being Neapolitan pizza would be right for the time.
Yeah.
And we found a great space with a great lease, and
It was in the Bay Area?
yeah, it was in San Francisco.
Okay.
It was called A16.
Wow.
Still there.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, there's one in Oakland. There's two in Japan.
No way.
Yeah, it's gone on to much success. The cookbook I wrote when I was there with my partner, she did the wine, won cookbook of the year. So hugely successful restaurant.
Wow.
great time in my life. But it also made me an egomaniac, right? I went from being a cook from a small town to being one of considered the best chefs in San Francisco.
Yeah.
That ego gets you. And during that time, I opened another. I was building an empire of restaurants, and I thought I was on top of the world. I was on TV. I won Rising Star Chef of the Year from the James Beard Award, which is essentially like winning an Oscar.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a huge achievement. I was on the cover of Food and Wine magazine. I had the cookbook of the year. I was on top of the world. I had a 2-year-old son at that time, but I wasn't ever home. I was building my career, and
it's long hours as a chef.
Yeah, long hours, and it was all about myself, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, I'd moved to New York. I opened a restaurant, and my son became sick, and that's when my entire life changed. I'd spent every moment up until that point. Let's see, I was 30 years old at that point. I'd been cooking since I was 14.
Wow.
I'd never stopped. Right. And until that moment, my son got sick, and he got a really rare disease called Kawasaki disease. And it put him in the hospital for over a month. And, there were some rough days, and he suffered from 3 giant aneurysms on his coronary arteries, because of that.
Wow.
And so his life, has also changed. And through that, I realized what was important. And it was health, right? I weighed 250 pounds.
Wow. It's hard to imagine, man.
Yeah, look it up. My son needed to be healthy, and so a lot of things changed for me. And through a series of situations, I had met somebody who worked at Chipotle, and I kind of pitched the idea. I was like, hey, would you ever need somebody like me? Not even knowing what that meant, right? And at the time, I met with the founder.
Wow.
And I wouldn't say we hit it off, but we spent 7 years together. And it was the best 7 years that I've ever had, and professionally, because it changed me as a human. It made me realize that people were no longer coming to work for me, for my knowledge or for whatever, and they were coming for a paycheck, right? And so I had to look at myself and realize that I knew nothing about humans. I knew nothing about empathy. I knew nothing. I didn't even know what the word empathy meant, right?
Wow.
Like all these things that I had to learn because I'd been, basically in a prison of the kitchen for the last however many years, and when you do that, and especially during those times, and like now I'd like to think that the industry has changed enough to where there's more balance, but we're talking about during the 90s and during the aughts where labor laws were not the same.
Yeah.
Right. And I put in my 10,000 hours very, very, very quickly, let's just say, right? And so I'm suffering from it today, right? Like shoulder surgery, the tinnitus in my ears, right? It's a
tinnitus.
Yeah, I have
just loud environment.
Yeah, both of my feet have had plantar fasciitis. It's like my body is ravished by being in kitchens, and I am lucky that I found health, right? Because if I continued on the path where I was 250 pounds overweight, eating poorly, doing the things that, were causing damage, I'd probably be dead.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sitting here loving life. Right. And it's all because, unfortunately, my son had to suffer. Yeah. Right. And because he suffered, I'm a better person. Right. And so I don't regret anything that's happened. I just know that every single day I need to continue that growth for myself and for the people around me. And I tell them all the time, the more you give, the more you get. Yeah. Right. Like give more love. You'll get more love, right? From the people that matter.
Do you feel like that transition happened overnight, or was it still a gradual change? It's still happening. Yeah. Also, I'm going to move this mic just a little bit more in front of you. Yeah.
It is still happening.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry about that.
No.
It is still happening. It's still happening to this day. And it took me a long time to even get to be able to say this to you. Right. And so
I can imagine.
yeah, I mean, we this industry, it's an ego-driven industry. I was on top of the world. I thought I was the greatest thing ever, and then I got kicked in the gut. And now I know that I'm just a little nothing in a bigger scheme, right? And all I can do is like do right by myself and do right by my family, and like really like go after the things that matter for me. And not try to live for other people. And I've been so fortunate because I found all these things through food. And so through food, I want to continue to give back, and I want to continue to change the not only my world but the world around me. So
Yeah. Dang, man. That's a lot.
now my son is turning 16.
Wow.
Right? This happened when he was 2.
Wow.
And so I wish he was still eating healthy. Now he's a 16-year-old who's like a 16-year-old.
I feel like that's a pretty natural progression.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I had a mom who was like very cognizant about what we ate and growing up. But I also remember, not caring as much about the things that I ate and going off to college and just eating, McDonald's and tons of not great food. And so it's taken me a minute to get back onto that path of eating healthy.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I mean, it is.
It's life-changing, actually.
It is really life-changing. I don't want to say it's everything because, I've gone, I think most people, you tend to swing the pendulum too far, right?
Yeah.
And, I went from 250 pounds to 155.
Whoa.
Right. And I was running marathons, and
No way.
I was working out twice a day, and, I was doing all these things. And so I didn't, it's taken me many years to understand balance. Right. And so balance is something that I focus on all the time. I bring that up because like now, going from cooking at, a very high level, in my early career and shunning places like McDonald's and In-N-Out in these fast food places and thinking that they're, shit and causing damage. Like it's part of the balance that I'm living today.
Yeah.
Man, I'll get down with McDonald's. Right. That's my point. So I have
there's a time and place.
That's right. There's a caveat.
There's a time and place,
right?
for sure.
Yeah. And so, but it's taken me many years to come. It's full circle, right? I grew up on McDonald's, and then I shunned it for many years, and now I'm like, oh, they got a Shamrock Shake. Let's check that out.
I haven't had that Shamrock Shake in a long time.
Yeah, it's good.
That's so funny, man. Do you have any? What's your guilty pleasure? What's your go-to?
Okay, so I have a sweet tooth, right? You don't get to be 250 pounds without a sweet tooth, right?
Yeah.
And part of what I was saying is swinging the pendulum. When I started to lose weight, when I said, you know what, I'm going to run, I went out and started running, and I stopped eating sugar for 2 years.
Dang.
I had a restaurant back then. I had a pastry chef. She would give me things. I would try them, and I would spit them out. Right.
No
yeah, because I was so disciplined, and I was so,
Wow.
it ended up causing me to be crazy and like angry and all the things that you would expect.
Yeah.
Right. But I remember I went hardcore, 2 years, no sugar. So my guilty pleasure is definitely ice cream.
Ice cream is so good.
Yeah. I made ice cream at home this weekend.
Oh yeah.
And I forgot to spin it last night.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I just remembered I'm having pistachio ice cream tonight.
Oof, that's my favorite type of ice cream.
That's
Pistachio ice cream is so good.
That's what I'm making.
Oh,
That's what
man.
I'm having.
That's amazing. I think for me, my guilty pleasure is probably it's almost hard to say because there's things that I just naturally go to. Like I love burgers. I love burgers and pizza
Same.
and burritos.
Same.
But I feel like in different points in my life, like that was a regular staple of my time.
Like every night.
like every day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to call that a guilty pleasure if you're doing it every day. I love a good Haagen-Dazs bar.
Yeah. Ooh.
Haagen-Dazs on a hot summer day.
Yep.
Man.
They got to fit. Sometimes the chocolate flakes off too quick. Like it.
Yeah.
And it drops on the ground.
That does happen.
And I'm like, I just paid $4.99 for this. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Put some chocolate on the inside. Oh, they do have the Ripple one though. It's like they have chocolate like in the inside. Check that one out. Good texture.
Ooh,
Good
dang.
texture. I know my ice cream bars. Don't mess around. You ever have a Magnum?
I think yes. Yeah, those are really good
Magnums
too.
are good.
I love Salt and Straw.
Salt and Straw, man.
Salt and Straw is so good.
Let's see.
You can't walk past the Salt and Straw and not go in and get ice cream.
I know.
Well, it's just so good.
I did yesterday actually, but then I had it delivered. So
was it the one on Abercrombie?
Yeah.
I love that one.
So it was too busy. I was like, I got to go. And so I got it delivered. I had the, it's a new one, I think, cereal puff chocolate peanut butter. Check it out.
Damn.
I also got the cornflake Marionberry because, like,
that sounds insane.
I'm still fat on the inside.
That's amazing. I'm curious, when you had all these restaurants, like you talk about that transition in your life, what happened to those restaurants? I mean, did you just kind of sell your ownership? Did you maintain? Like how?
Well, part of being an egomaniac, you back then, like preface that, but don't take that out of context. Part of when you're young, immature, on top of the world, getting every award possible, having money that you never thought you would have, it makes you act a certain way. And when you act a certain way, you damage relationships along the way. So, my first restaurants, we had some bad breakups in the partnership. I moved to New York, opened a restaurant, also soured that partnership. But I would say that's, both sides. I would hate to speak ill of that partner. But, let's just say he was not very truthful. And then I found Chipotle, right? And so those restaurants are still going. A16, like I said, it's thriving. There's still a couple in Tokyo, Yokohama.
How did that happen? That whole Japanese branch?
Yeah, so my last year there was a group that came over and they were entertaining a few restaurants in the States to open in Tokyo, and we were the exciting one that they picked. And so it just created a partnership, and
wow.
we opened a few over there. And but yeah, all those restaurants are still going.
That's amazing.
I had a restaurant called SPQR that's still going, but it's under new ownership. The one in New York closed down. Unfortunately, but that's New York is a tough place, man. They don't like outsiders. I got ripped up. Check this out. Yeah. So I opened a pizza place in New York. I mean, first of all, like,
this is a ballsy thing to do.
Yeah, look at the ego on me, right? And not only that, I opened so the restaurant, we don't have to name it, but it was with a really well-known restaurateur, probably the biggest restaurateur in New York. And we opened it, and it was called whatever it was called, bar and grill, right? We really wanted it to be, a neighborhood spot, a bar, a grill, somewhere loud, and so I was like, well, I grew up in the Midwest and I grew up on bar pizza. Bar pizza for me is thin, crispy, cut into squares.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And so I did that. Man, I got ripped apart in New York City, right? And I stood behind it. I was like, I don't care, man. I'm doing it. But anyways, they basically
that's funny.
Laughed me out of there. And now fast forward, let's see, that was 2010. Fast forward 13 years. Guess what? New York Times just featured in the paper this week.
No way.
Square cut pizza.
No way. You're just ahead of your time,
Vindicated, man. I feel vindicated.
You're just
I'm the Napster.
a Van Gogh in your industry, man.
Well, Van Gogh's fine, but I'll be Nap. I'm Sean, what's his name?
Oh, man. So starting a restaurant is a pretty big undertaking.
It's horrible. Don't do it.
So for the people who want to ignore that advice,
okay,
and they're going to do it no matter what.
That's right.
What would you say to those people who want to start a restaurant?
Look, I think nowadays starting a restaurant is a lot easier than it used to be, right? But it's a lot harder to be successful.
Okay, so clarify those things. Why is it easier now?
So it's easier because there's many more entry points, right? You don't have to have a lease, you don't have to have a space, you don't have to have a thing. You don't have to have a long, sustainable business plan, because you can open digitally. You can open for pop-ups. You can open 1 week at a time. You can open up from 9 to 10 in the morning if you want, right? Yeah. And as long as you have your thing that you're operating and you can make it business, like, you can have a restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? We're sitting in a studio right now that used to be your apartment. So
It used to be my bedroom.
yeah, it used to be your bedroom.
It's true, man. Anything is possible.
Right? And so we could theoretically run a kitchen out of here, right? And we could run a restaurant out of here.
Well,
so
that is one thing that's not allowed on the lease. But
Okay.
secretly we could, yeah, for sure.
So the term restaurant, has changed.
Yeah.
And so I think for ones who want to get in there, you just got to decide what you want to do and what's important to you and whether you want to be successful or not, right? And I think that if you're smart and you can challenge assumptions and you can find the hole that needs filled, man, you can be successful.
Yeah.
Or you can have extremely deep pockets. That's the other, because really, like, to get into a market and to get like, let's just say you're going to go the traditional route, you got to get the building, right? You got to negotiate the lease.
Mm-hmm.
You got to probably not have a job during that whole time of build out, right? Because you're focused on that because you can't afford somebody else doing it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then now you got to worry about marketing. You got to worry about branding. You got to worry about R&D. You got to worry about hiring. You got to worry about, making sure every permit is filled, every I is crossed, every T is dotted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? and so, man,
It's a lot.
it is a lot.
It's a lot.
So, good luck.
I'm always curious about marketing, branding, and then the running of the actual enterprise. Because I feel like nowadays marketing is everything. Like people need to get eyes on what you're doing, and it's got to look clean. It's got to look good. You got to be hitting your target audience with something that, because we see so much stuff every single day.
Yep.
If you don't catch that person in that first second on the scroll on the Instagram, you lost them.
Yeah.
What if you were to break it down into like a percentage, like initially starting a restaurant, how much of your wad of cash, your like initial investment, do you think that you would allot just to brand, like marketing, branding?
I think it was Bill Gates, arguably the smartest guy everybody knows, right? Who said, if I had, what did he say? If I had $1 or if I had $100 left, I would spend $99 of it on marketing or something like that.
Wow.
Right? He said something like that. So, you got to separate yourself. And if you don't separate yourself, it's really hard to make it, right? Unless you got those devoted followers that you can reach in that moment that just hits correctly. It's like, how do you go viral?
That's a good question.
Right? And
I'm trying to figure it
right. and like maybe if you're trying to go viral, you're never going to go viral. I don't know. And so, we're even though I've been in this industry for over 30 years, we are still redefining it, retrying things. And I tell people all the time, like, because you have to imagine, right? Like you just said, when you go to your place to eat, you get the same thing every time.
Yeah.
Right? That is a lot of people.
Yeah.
But also, it's a lot, people always, or I don't want to say always, but people also think the same way every single day, right? Not only do they eat the same, they also think the same.
Yeah.
What
We
I
like
mean
to be
by
comfortable.
That, yeah, we're comfortable. What I mean by that is, every time I suggest something, like without fail, it comes back to me with like, oh no, we tried that. Right? And it's like, okay, I understand that we tried that, but the world is not black and white. Man, it changes every day. The environment changes, the mood changes, the temperature changes. And so, if you think the thing that you did yesterday is relatable today, I'm here to argue that, man, you already lost.
Square pizza, man.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to come back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, at this point in my life, it's a daily practice of like really breaking through assumptions and also really trying to not live by others' societal standards, right? And like, I know that that's what makes me happy in my life right now.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that's why you're the head of innovation.
Well, you'd be surprised out there. Like a lot of people have jobs in the world that, Trump was president. Right? Like, so not everybody's qualified. And I wouldn't even say that I was qualified. I don't even know if I am qualified, but I do know this. Every single day, I think I am going to try to be qualified.
Yeah.
Right. And what I mean by that is like the moment I say no, is I better be careful because I better have made sure that I've checked every single box and inside and out.
Yeah. What excites you about where the industry is headed, the restaurant industry?
You know, that's a deep question because yesterday I thought to myself, man, I'm so sick of eating out.
Really?
Well, not what I should preface it with saying, or I should explain that by saying, I feel like food. Okay, I guess I'm a food adventurer, right? Like I travel for food. I go places to food. And it doesn't have to be high end food. It could be low end food. It could be whatever, right? I travel the world for food.
Incredible.
But because we are becoming more connected as humans through social media, through the internet, through every avenue you could think of. And this has been happening for many years. I'm not just like discovering this, but you know, food at that higher level is becoming all the same. Right? And but with that comes good things, right? It pushes the ones that are truly special to make things that are so special or unique or not copyable that it's pushing cuisine to the highest level. But to go to the highest level, you're going to spend for it, right? Like Noma, considered one of the best restaurants in the world, is in Tokyo or in Kyoto right now at Ace Hotel doing a pop-up. And I think that, I forget what the dinner is. I think it's $1,000 a person, let's call it, for food. I think it is.
Wow.
And so, you know, they moved the entire team, 100 people from Noma to Japan for the next couple months.
Wow.
Right? They've had people on the ground for 6 months doing R&D. Right? So the money that they invested, you could never actually charge probably enough to get your investment back. But what it's doing is pushing cuisine to this highest level. It's like you know, I'm sure people in the scientific field, right? It's like, sure, there's a lot of people making vaccines. But like, who's making what the next version of vaccine is? Right? Like that's where that's what excites me. Yeah. It's like those people that are taking food as we know it and being like, no. We're redefining it, right? And it's like, it's probably the same people that, you know, argue that you should only have gas stoves in your kitchen, ironically. You know, that's the funny thing.
Yeah.
But that's what excites me. Right. But it also excites me that we are more connected as humans and we are more accepting of different cultures and different foods and the willingness to try. Right. Like, yeah, sure. You know what? My favorite food probably is pizza or probably is burger, just like you. Right. But, you know, here in LA, we have places like Pijja Place. I haven't been, but
I haven't heard of it.
So it's Pijja.
Okay.
Right? Pijja Place. So it's an Indian take. It's a sports bar. Check this out. It's a sports bar.
That sounds
but they serve
wild.
pizza and they serve other food, but it's sports bar food with like Indian flavors. And the pizza looks so dope.
Yeah.
Like imagine if they cut it into squares. No, I don't even know. They might.
Damn.
But that's my point. It's like we're blending cultures, you know? It's like, you know, I look at my own daughter, right? My wife is half Dominican, half Egyptian, Jewish, you know, and if she broke it down to you, she's like, you know, she'll tell you that she's like 53% African, Southern African, something, you know, whatever, like, African. Sub-Saharan African, and 25% whatever, right? And then you look at my daughter and you're like, what is she? You know, and it's like, because I'm white, man. I'm white as can be. And so, you know, and think about what that is in 20 years. Everybody's like that. So places like Pizza Place makes sense to me. Yeah. Right. And it probably makes sense to you, you know, even though you've never been there. I've never been there. Right. But it kind of just works. Yeah. And so I think that also excites me. It's like you get the things that are so special and so unique that are pushing cuisine and pushing the mind to places that, you know, people haven't really considered in food. And then you get the other ones that are like, yo, man, we're just going to make good food. And this is my take on it because I grew up in LA. I just happen to be X, and this is what I want to serve you. It's kind of like Roy Choi, you know, 15 years ago making a Korean taco at Kogi. You know, it's like, he wasn't the first, but he rode that thing and made it something special. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of room for that still in the industry. So that excites me.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see what is going to happen in terms of technology, AI.
Oh,
and
man, let's
like
get into
where the
it.
world is headed, but also because what I think is interesting is one thing that's really special about going to a restaurant is the human interaction.
Yep.
Your conversation with the bartender.
And we've lost a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially over COVID, it got hard. It got
That's what I mean.
hard to connect with people. I mean, I was a server with a mask and a face shield.
Oh, good.
And all you can see is my eyes. There's music blaring. You can barely even hear. I'm just trying to read somebody's lips. It's crazy. So, but that's like part of the experience is that human connection. You know, like when I was a server, when I was a bartender, I loved talking to people. I loved getting to know whoever came into the restaurant. And I think, you know, vice versa, when you go to a restaurant, I love it when I get to meet somebody who's got a great personality or they're interesting or they're funny or, you know, that's part of the added value. And I don't think that you can just like replicate that.
No, you can't. So I could go on a few days about all these things. So let's talk about AI. But let's also talk about, I need to talk about the rise of the coffee industry. But I also need to talk about this customer interaction thing, right? Because, you know, through COVID, a lot of it has got cut, right? From money, you know, a money saving thing, you know, and it's given restaurants an excuse, but also a lot of restaurants have, you know, stopped being at capacity. What I mean is like, you know, let's take, I don't know, 15 years ago, I bet, you know, 99% of Chipotle's business was inside Chipotle. Right now, I bet 50% of it. I don't know the actual number. Yeah, 50% of it is outside the restaurant.
Yeah,
right. And so, you know, what are you creating? Are you going to keep creating the same restaurant experience that you've been creating for years? You know, one of my favorite things to say is like, you know, you don't need to build church for Easter Sunday, right? It's like. Like you, if you do that, you fail, right? 'Cause especially if only 50% of your customers are walking through your door.
Yeah.
Now, what I mean by that is like, imagine you've worked in restaurants, like, you know, show is part of it, right? Like open kitchens, right? Open kitchens, flames, you know, blah, 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 right? And so now if you're building this and only 50% of the people are experiencing it, 50% are losing out on it.
Right.
So what do you do to create a customer experience with that other 50%? And I think that's being tapped into. I don't think
Virtual
anybody's
reality.
killing it. Yeah. No, I you know, who
Maybe.
knows, right? I'll put anything on the table.
Yeah.
Right. But also there's a danger. I think we're in danger of food becoming democratized. Right.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I'll get into it. So now imagine like if you were a Duracell guy, like,
okay,
I love Duracell batteries, right? Right. And you've been a Duracell guy since, you know, 1995.
Yeah.
And then you, just like me, shop on Amazon, and you go on Amazon and you like, oh, Amazon's promoting X. Like that battery is a hell of a lot cheaper than Duracell or whatever. It's like, and now, I mean, actually Amazon, I don't think sells batteries anymore. So bad example, but
really?
Yeah, I think, but it was their number one seller.
Really?
Yeah. Check me, fact check this.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So,
you know, you go on Amazon, if you're a Prime member, one, you're looking for Prime.
Yeah.
Then you're looking for recommended.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so you trust Amazon implicitly, even though you don't have a clue what's going on behind those two words, Prime or recommended, right? You don't no longer give a shit about Duracell. So what I mean by that is food, as the rise of ghost kitchens, as the rise of digital, as the rise of all these things are happening, you know, you no longer have that experience when I go to whatever restaurant and Sheldon is my server. Right. I no longer have that. I no longer go into my restaurant and care about the flames. I no longer have the smell. I no longer have all this stuff. And so what that means is I'm okay with being okay. Right. And think about yourself, your own life. Like when you get delivery, what do you say to yourself? Yeah, it's good, you know, for delivery. Right.
Yeah. Unless I'm getting crispy rice, and then I'm stoked.
Ooh.
Have you ever had crispy rice?
Yeah, of course.
Oh man, I love crispy rice. Like they're packaging and their branding is just so good.
Yeah, well, I mean, they ripped it off of
It
Sugarfish
Oh,
and Nozawa. So,
and it's just
let's give credit where credit is due.
Sure, yeah. I still got to go. I've never been to Sugarfish.
We'll go. I'll
which is
take you.
crazy. Let's do it.
Or Kazunori, the hand roll place. That one's good too.
Is that in Santa Monica?
Yeah, they have one there. Yeah, they have one down here.
Okay.
Yeah, right down the street.
Man. But anyways, it's a totally different
democratization of food. I think that people are going to start looking, and that's why you need these different categories. That's why you need the Nomas of the world doing these crazy pop-ups around the world, pushing cuisines to the highest limits, because us as a whole, we're just going to be like, oh, fuck it, I'll just eat X, right?
Yeah.
And like,
stay home.
I'm going to go on Amazon and order my food.
Yeah.
Or DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever. And it's like you're okay with being okay.
Yeah.
And that is the dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so getting into a restaurant, you don't want to build a restaurant for in-restaurant experience, but you don't want to forget about the outside restaurant experience. So it's like, all these things are keeping this industry exciting for me. It's like trying to decide what we're doing. Yeah. So, which leads into AI.
Totally.
Because I think AI is a part of that. Right. Because, you get this, you theoretically, if AI was working, you could have my recipe that I just created uploaded onto a server, shot around the world, that hits a ordering system that gets delivered to digital kitchens or regular kitchens around the world, and then my recipe could be cooked in thousands of kitchens at one time.
Whoa.
Right? All with the push of a button.
Huh.
Think about that. So then,
that's crazy.
But now liken it to iTunes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. Is there a database of recipes?
No. I mean, sure, there's recipes everywhere, right?
But there's not like an iTunes of like, this is where everyone puts their recipes and you can buy recipes and share.
No, but
are you building this?
No, but I'm. We're talking about this in real time, right? But like, think about it. Think about those. Think about if you had the whole vertical system. Like you spec'd out. Let's just look at Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast. Look what he's doing, right? Yeah. The guy is worth X amount of money serving shit burgers, right?
Yeah, burgers.
Yeah, now imagine if the burgers were actually good. Now imagine if the operators were staying true to the specs. Now I have no inside information that they're not. I just know that I've had some really bad Beast burgers.
Where can you buy a Beast burger?
So they're all through digital kitchens, and I believe, and they're all through
just Ghost Kitchens.
Ghost Kitchens.
So I could go on Postmates right now and like,
right now.
Dang.
Yeah. Okay. So
crazy.
Now that is that. Now he already has this, right? He has it everywhere, right? And so I'm sure he has. You can use these tomatoes. You can use this lettuce. You can use this bun. You can use this beef, right? But it's still, you need a human involved. Yeah. What I'm talking about is you incorporate every ordering system around the world, and then it's just like boom.
That's crazy. I mean, what I'm thinking about right now is like if there were a bunch of just like generic kitchens all over where people were skilled enough that they could like get a recipe and make it and it would actually like resemble accurately that recipe, then you could have just individual identities. Like, my name is Mr. Beast. Like, if you like my food, you can get any in the world and this person in this kitchen will make it. Or my name is Nate and, I will chef, that's pretty wild.
So here's the problem with that.
Yeah.
You just said skill.
Yeah.
How do you do it without skill? And let me explain what I mean. Well, let me explain what I mean, because I think that skill is obviously important.
Or a hybrid.
Yeah, sure. But
part of the process.
Because I would never build something that's, quote unquote idiot proof, because then you have to hire idiots, and I'm not in the business of hiring idiots, right? Yeah. But I see there's also a huge problem on the horizon that I want to tap into or fix or figure out, right? Or at least think about, talking about skilled workers. So you, just like me, what are we drinking right now? We're drinking Be Sweet Cold Brew Coffee Nitro.
Yeah.
Which means, I hope you get a sponsor for that, which means you like bougie ass coffee outside of this place, right? And so just like me, you're willing to go and spend $6 or $7. I paid $7 for a mocha coffee the other day, right? And so let me explain why I'm on this rant.
Yeah.
I'm a lover of coffee.
Yeah.
I like good coffee.
As am I.
Right? And what do you need for good coffee? You need skilled baristas, right? What is happening in the world of coffee? There's a rise of these expensive coffee shops, and the coffee shops are getting more expensive.
Yep.
Right? And what's happening, there's less and less skilled baristas. But you're paying more and you're waiting longer for the thing that you want quickly.
Yeah.
So think about this. There's less skilled baristas. The prices are going up. There's a longer wait in each one of these shops, I promise you. Promise. Not to mention the attitude.
Yeah, that could be a real
Not
thing.
to mention that. So we're paying $7 for a cup of coffee. We're waiting 10 minutes for somebody to mess around with that machine back there and make a bunch of noise and give you attitude when you get up and just look at you, right? And so there's got to be a better way. What is that better way? I want to find it.
Yeah.
But I know where we're heading right now is dangerous because the coffee's going to get more expensive. The baristas are going to get less skilled. The attitude's going to get more. The wait is going to get longer. There's a hole right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump through it.
It's that robot coffee in Detroit, man.
Yeah.
What is that place?
Power plant, right? I think it's power plant.
Power plant.
Isn't that what it's called?
That doesn't sound familiar.
I meant to look it up the other day.
I know exactly where it is because it's across from where I used to work in Detroit. It's on Woodward, downtown Detroit.
Yeah, they had one in New York in.
Oh, that's right.
In the West Village.
Okay, let's see here. Pulling up downtown Detroit. I hope it's still there. Because COVID really did a number on everything. Coffee in downtown Detroit.
Roasting plant? No.
Oh, well. Oh, I think it's roasting plant. I think that's it.
Yeah, that is it, right?
Roasting plant. Also, shout out to Oasis, Desert Oasis Coffee in Detroit. That also popped up online.
Oh, nice.
That's a great spot. I love Detroit, man. And I think
the D.
The D, that's right, man.
Yeah, I like the D. I'm a Midwesterner, you know.
There's a lot of potential in that city.
Oh,
for
lot.
Anything.
Yeah.
But I think also for restaurateurs because there's just so much open space and there's some really cool areas being developed.
Yeah, given everything I've said about opening a restaurant today.
I think, yeah, because it's interesting because there's so many things at play, not only in society right now, like people are shifting to like staying in more and ordering Uber Eats and those type of things. So you got to consider that. You know, brick and mortar seems to be like it's fading away just in general, whether or not you're a restaurant, but like just shops, like everything is, you can sell everything online and cut out that lease out of your expenses, you know? So, but that being said, there's always a place where it makes sense.
Oh, for sure.
And I also do think that downtown LA is a place that has that potential too, just because there's so much space that's not being used.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I think nowadays I wouldn't want to open just a restaurant. I guess for me, at this point in my career, that doesn't interest me. And so what I mean by that is just from a personal standpoint, like I don't want to just run a business. I don't want to run a cash transaction and, squeak by maybe getting 10% when having so much work go into it because restaurants are so manual labor, right? And they're so laborious and they take so many people to run.
Yep.
I would want to diversify. I would want to figure out all the things that make sense, right?
Yeah.
You serve food, serve coffee, absolutely. But I also want a space to gather. I also would like a space to sell things that I'm interested in, cookbooks or cooking equipment, or I love bread. I want to, connecting people through bread, I think is important.
Yeah.
Do you know where the word company comes from?
No, I actually don't.
So in Latin, con pane, with bread.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like just having, the company
just breaking bread.
Just breaking bread, right?
Getting together.
Like everything is around food. And so, I love clothes and fashion. So it's like if I were to do this, I would incorporate all these things that drive me, all these things that make me happy, right?
Yeah.
Giving back to the community, giving, doing things that are not for myself and also challenging assumptions, right?
Yeah.
And also getting people involved. I think, like I said, the more you give, the more you get, I had an idea. If I had a place, I would give away apples, right? My last name is Appleman. It's like an apple a day, right? But like, what would that lead to? Like maybe a farmer would see that and be like, oh, I got man, I got an extra case of apple, and then that would start.
Yeah, that's funny.
You know, and like who knows? It's just like I look for those moments to where you can connect people and you can connect things and you can help and you can, man, just be a human.
Yeah, I think those are probably what a lot of people owe their success to, is when you can do something that breaks you out of your normal everyday paradigm, or pulls you out for a second, and you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm not a drone. Like I'm a human.
That's why I'm not a
human.
chef.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like, you know, when people call me a chef, I'm like, nah, man, please don't. Like, you're don't view me like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
It's too limiting.
Yeah, it's too limiting, because if you think about all the, like, look, I work in the corporate world, right? Let's be real. Like, look at the corporate world. How many, you see CEOs, chief executive officer, you see COO, chief operating officer. How many chief culinary officers have you seen out there? Not many.
Yeah, man.
Not many.
I
So
think
like,
you're the only one.
no, I'm not
But
even,
you're not.
right? So like, don't even.
Yeah, I
you know.
know.
It's like, don't even call me that, because you just put a ceiling that I actually can't break through, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna break through myself by not calling myself a chef.
Yeah.
Even though it's my love, my passion, but at the end of the day, man, I love life. I love my family, and I love other people. I love humans. I love connecting these things, and that's what's important.
Yeah. I think that's a really powerful message, specifically for people who work as chefs in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy to view that job as having a ceiling or a window, when in reality, you can take that. I mean, food is central to everything in life.
Yeah.
More so than other artistic practices. Like, arguably, we need art, we need music. Yeah. But what we actually and I'm saying that as a musician, what we truly need is food. And
I mean, food is probably more important than medical care.
Yeah, because it comes first.
That's
right.
right.
Because if you don't have the food, then you're going to need the medical care.
Yeah.
So, and if you have good food, then you'll probably need potentially less medical care. Obviously,
so you better start calling me a doctor.
Dr. Nate.
Yeah.
Well, many hats, man. Many hats. You said you went to culinary school, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because, there's kind of a similarity between the culinary world and the film world, the music world, of like to go to school, to not go to school. Many people don't.
No, it's called
but
ego.
Then many people do.
Yeah, it's called ego.
So what was your experience like going through culinary school? Would you do it again? Do you think that it was valuable for you?
I think that I really try to go through life and not judge others, and I really try to think what's best for myself, right? And I say that because, we make these statements especially in America. It's like, we make these laws that govern, things that are so not black and white, but the laws are black and white, right? That's why we have judges that get to decide, which is like crazy if you think about that. But my point is, you got to find what's right for you, right? And so I know this from 7th grade to the day I graduated, I did not take a textbook. I don't even think they have textbooks, so let me explain it to you young kids. Textbooks are these things that have words and stuff. I did not take a textbook home. I did not do homework. I did the bare minimum.
Wow.
I'm surprised I even graduated high school. I didn't know how to learn. I didn't care about learning. I got through. I went to culinary school. Man, something clicked. I got an A in my first class.
Wow.
First A I think I'd probably ever had. And that drove me to where I am today.
Wow.
Right?
You got that taste.
Oh, man. I got that taste and I dove in. And what I realized is I don't necessarily think that I needed to, or at that time I had the capacity to learn about many things. I found the thing that drove me and I just dove head first.
Yeah.
And now I'm in that point where I'm trying to learn about other things.
Sure.
Right. So I guess my point of my story is you should never be held back by others. Right. And I think that, there is ego involved when it's like, oh, you went to school to be a musician. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think there's shame in that. Right. Because imagine that person that didn't go to school and then they didn't make it,
Right.
versus the one who went to school and made it.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing black and white, man.
No, not at all. Where did you get your inspiration to even cook to begin with? Was there somebody in your home who inspired you, a relative, a friend?
I would say my grandmothers.
Mm.
Or another way to look at it would be to say my parents were such bad cooks that whenever my grandparents cooked, oh man, I loved it. I got down on it.
Yeah.
They were good Southern cooks. And so I got a good taste of like what a good foundation of great tasting food was from an early age.
Yeah.
You know, like, man, I remember fried chicken and catfish fries and like, you know, these things are just so imprinted in my memories, and my grandmother making onion burgers where she made patties and she would cover them in onions and dip the bun in the grease and make it like crispy, and like, you know, those are the things that I remember. Right, my parents were like microwaving food. So I think that's where I got the inspiration.
Yeah.
But then you know, working in kitchens. I started working when I was 14.
Was there a reason why you chose a kitchen? Was it just the available job? Do you want to do it?
Yeah, my older brother was working at a country club, and one night they had some people call out or something, and they had to set up for a wedding the next morning. And so I think I might have been 13. And
wow.
Yeah, they were like, hey, can you come at 11 p.m. to help set up for this wedding?
No way.
Right? And I'm 13 years old. I'm like, you're going to pay me? Right. And so, I probably had a beer and I probably had a cigarette and I probably thought this is the greatest fucking thing ever. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was hooked that night and I was like, this is my life.
Yeah. Right.
And they offered me a job as a dishwasher a few months later. And I realized I didn't want to be a dishwasher. So I got really good at it. Yeah. And I took that philosophy, everything from that point on. Like, I got really good at things. I got to do more things. Right. Because I got to be a really good dishwasher, so I got to make salads. Right after I made salads, I got to work the fry station. So I just took that all the way up, and now I'm sitting here, talking about innovation.
Yeah, man. I had the exact same progression. I started as dishwasher, making salads on the fryer, flipping burgers.
I worked at an old folks home. And
I also did that.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I worked it was the funnest job I ever had. One, like, part of it, you would do different jobs throughout the day, but one where you could do the puree station. Okay. So you were like pureeing steak dinners.
Oh,
but
man.
Yeah, that was sick. But
That's
but you also got to puree like chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually my very first job. Well, like my first real job. I was working ever since I was like, I don't know, 12 years old, man, whether it was like picking weeds or something. But I got a job at a senior citizens home in my hometown as I was a server. And there were only 2 options on the menu. I wore like a bow tie and an apron.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. So throughout so this was a big one. Man. Yeah. This had like towers of people, but it also had homes.
Oh, wow.
And we had 2 different cooking lines. And there were assembly lines. They were on belts.
Yeah.
Like, that's how fast things go. And so part of the day you would be a server. So I would interact. I remember that they would always try to get me to take them with them. Like, they wanted to, or with me, they wanted to escape.
That's crazy. That's kind of sad.
Yeah, no, I saw a lady jump once.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But, I think it's safe to admit this. So let's see, this was 1997. Where were we at? 26 years ago?
Yeah.
I think. Okay.
Or 20. Yeah.
I don't know.
Something like that.
Whatever. In 1997 in Greenville, Ohio, I was working at an old folks home, and a couple of my friends and I decided to steal a 5-gallon bucket of dishwashing soap. I know you're asking yourself, why would you do that, right? And so we lived in a pretty small town.
Yeah.
And in the center of my town was a giant fountain surrounded by the post office, the police station, the fire department, the courthouse. Everything was around this, right?
Yeah.
And so we took this soap, we dumped it, we separated it into 4 different bags, and we dressed in black at night. We hid behind building, and we ran and we dumped it in the fountain and took off.
Oh my goodness.
Man, for the next 2 days, this thing was foaming. I never admitted that. So there you go.
That's hilarious.
1997.
Was it did it cause some uproar in the town?
Who knows? I doubt
Made in the newspaper.
It made it clean.
Yeah. You're just doing a public service.
That's right.
Really. That's wild. So out of your experience working in and out of restaurants, being in this industry for so long, what have been some of your biggest takeaways? Your powerful moments that have really stuck out to you, defining moments in that time?
So many. I mean, like I said, this has changed. This industry has changed my life for the better every single day, right? I think, man, the opportunity to be able to not only help when my son was sick, I became a member of the Kawasaki Disease Foundation, and I ended up putting on charity events for 5 straight years where we raised money for research for UCSD, and we gave all the money, and we kept the research going for years. Like that, that for me, defining moment, right? Just last week, I've connected with Samo High. That's Santa Monica High School, for those who don't know. They have a really special program where it is it's a transition program for special needs adults and also high school students. And so I've connected with them, and I've been doing a lot of work. So, something that little, also defining moment, right? Like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to see where it goes. Over the last couple of years, I've been working with Abbott Industries to talk about plasma donation and blood donation. So my son's life was saved by plasma donations, right? And during COVID, plasma donation became almost non-existent, right? Because nothing was open, nobody was giving plasma, nobody was donating. And so over the last couple of years, I've really been trying to get people to get out there and give plasma. So if you haven't, get out there and give.
Yeah. Is that similar to when you donate blood? Is it?
Yeah, it's very similar. It just takes longer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
got it. I did that I donated blood for the first time. Like maybe a year or two ago.
You can do it every 3 months. So.
It was a weird experience, man.
Yeah.
I got really giddy.
Yeah.
Afterwards. Like I was just laughing, and I was like, I felt euphoric.
Yeah. Because you did something great for humanity.
Well, I don't know if that was why. I mean, I'd like to think that. I think it had a weird, it just, I don't know. Yeah. But it wasn't a negative thing. I was like, wow, this is a bizarre feeling and experience. And it was good to know that I had done something positive. But that was trippy.
It's crazy that I just named 3 things that don't really have to do with food.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But it's all through food. So,
yeah. Well, it kind of speaks to the fact that life just presents you things that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you dedicate yourself to or maybe even if you don't dedicate yourself to something, you're just living life and you're out there and things are going to come your way, and there's going to be opportunities that you can walk through. And I mean, in my own experience, and it sounds like with yours, when you walk through those doors into the unknown, sometimes amazing things happen, or things that you wouldn't have expected that become defining moments for you.
I think that's right. And luckily, my son's turning 16, so I get to do these things in real life and practice to see, if the things I say actually mean anything, right? And so, I think just like most people, or maybe not most people, but I know I spent most of my life being angry and just always needing an answer for why or whatever it is. And I think also part of where I'm at now in my life that I've shed all that, right? It's like, what if I did get the answer why? Would it suffice? And what I mean by that is really telling my son to focus on the things that are important. So it's what you said was, to me, the things that come this way, and maybe I choose to do them and then it turns into something else, right? But now imagine a scenario where I was focused on being angry, focused on the negative, focused on I can't wait till somebody touches me so I can just go off on that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I would miss all these opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And
totally.
so it's something that I am also reminding myself, and I'm reminding my son and my family every single day, it's like, hey, if we're focused on this bad thing, we're not going to see this great thing. And I'm a true living example of that, right? If I didn't get that A in that class in culinary school, man, I don't even know, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so, because I know where I was headed, and it probably wasn't where I am today.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if I had that drive. I didn't know if I had the passion. I didn't know if I had the thing because I was young. I hadn't found it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I feel like sometimes it takes a win,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just...
in the
need to see, like,
unlikeliest of places.
Yeah, like the tiniest bit of success to kind of alert yourself to, like, oh, maybe...
But imagine if I couldn't see it.
No. Yeah.
Imagine if I was like, oh yeah, it's just an A in culinary math or whatever, right? But that's also not taking things for granted. That's a thing that I really try to do. And I had this conversation yesterday with somebody who works with me, and I'm like, listen, what I try to do on a daily basis is put myself in your shoes, right? And look at things in that manner and make decisions based on that. And if I can do that, I think we'll be in a better place because, I have the freedom to not wash dishes. I have the freedom to not cut vegetables. I have the freedom to not do these things, right?
Yeah.
But if I don't know how to wash dishes and I don't know how to cut vegetables and I can't do it better than the people that I'm trying to train and teach, I'm a fraud. So that's what keeps me interested as well, right? It's like, I see, I guess I try to be aware, like, human behaviors for me are very important and interesting, right? And you can see it a lot. You can see it when people aren't confident. You can see it like I'm not confident. I'm not always confident, right? I'm really good at cooking, so I think I'm confident in that, and I'm really good at taking care of my family, and I'm confident in that, and like and I'm also really confident in standing behind the things I say, right? And I think that I just want to impress that on other people, right? And like give gratitude, give thanks, where thanks needed. It's like it could be that A in culinary math. It could be that thing that just like spark. Oh shit! Like I didn't know somebody appreciated me, right? I've worked with all walks of life in this industry, and I hear it all the time. It's like, well, yeah, they should know that, and it's like, what do you mean they should know that?
Yeah.
Who should have taught them, right?
Yeah.
It's like, imagine just the word hospitality. Imagine never experiencing hospitality. And you probably think that's crazy, but I've seen some really rough situations, and I've worked some really, places that I would say that the people that I've worked with have never experienced a genuine, hospitable situation. So how do you teach that?
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And so it's like when I hear people say to me, well, they should know that. And it's like, no. They shouldn't, right? They've never felt it. So if you've never felt hospitality, how can you give it?
Dang. Have you had many mentors in your life along this journey? People have inspired you in
I think I try to take something from everyone. I really do. I really, really, really try to take good and bad from all people, right? Like I am a very curious person, right? I just want to know things. And it could be very like sporadic, and it could be probably ADD-ish, right? It's like, in this day and age, we have, all the answers at our fingertips for the most part. Right. And we can find them. And so it's like, you go down these rabbit holes, but also you jump from thing to thing. And like, that's what I'm doing. Like, I want to know, and I want to see, and I want to experience, and I want to, and if it interests me, I'm cool with it. So I don't know. I love the world, man. I love life.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
And I've had lots of up and downs too. And so, but I celebrate those ups and downs, and it's gotten me here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important to be able to keep a big picture in your mind and not be so focused on the moment, because sometimes you are in a bad, or, in a low point or a bad point or a rough point or a tough point, but you got to remember the good points too, and just know that that's life. Like there's highs and lows, and I do think. I mean, I know that you're older than me, but the older that I have gotten, the more that I think when trouble comes my way, it's like, okay, I've experienced this in the past, and I know that it will pass. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
I think when you're younger, it's
hard,
easier for those things to seem like they're the end of the world. Like, oh my God, because you maybe never faced those things, or the frequency of that,
And you assume the other person has a set of beliefs or a set of things that may or may not be true.
Sure.
There's a lot of assumptions because there's a lot of miscommunications and lack of communication.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, there's some people go through life that think every single person has something against them. There's other people who think everybody is trustworthy. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
And for myself, like I said, the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah.
I know that I can only be who I am, and I know if I step out of line, if I'm an asshole, somebody's probably going to be an asshole to me.
Yeah. I have this soundbite in my mind of Snoop Dogg saying something along the lines of, like, you can't get love if you don't give love.
That's right.
So
so you just reminded me, I heard, I think it was on TikTok. I get all my knowledge from TikTok. It was, so it's funny, TikTok story. My wife she's always on TikTok, and when we first met, I was like, what's that about? And she's like, oh, I'm monitoring my nieces. And I'm like, bullshit. Anyways, so I come across this Chinese proverb. Like, this changed my life, right? It was a story. I'm going to butcher it, but you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
There was a guy, and a bunch of things were happening to him. And whenever something bad would happen, he'd be like, I don't know, we'll see. Right? Like one day his house got destroyed, and the whole town was like, oh my God, that's horrible. And he's like, I don't know, we'll see. The next day, I don't know, he got a house. But anyway, it goes on, a series of those events. The one that touched or stuck with me was his son was, I don't know, on a tractor and got in an accident, and his legs got cut off.
Yikes.
And the whole village was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I don't know, we'll see. Right. The next day, the army rolled through, and they were like, hey, we need every able-bodied person between ages X and X.
Wow.
Right. His son was that.
Wow.
And those troops went off, and they were all slaughtered and killed.
Yeah. Wow.
So the point that I took away from it is there is no bad news.
Yeah.
It's, we will see.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not religious. I'm not even spiritual, I don't think. It's just, man, we will see.
Yeah.
Right. It happened for a reason. It's our environment. It is what it is. The things that we do from this moment forward will change, or based on that. I don't know. So
yeah,
I don't know. I find it very interesting.
Yeah. I have a story that's very similar to that. I didn't get my legs cut off by a tractor, but when I was 20, I think I was 20, or maybe I was 19, I got attacked by a dog doing some door-to-door sales for like a painting company.
Nice.
And the guy whose dog bit me, he owned a roofing company, and he gave me a ride to the hospital, gave me money for a taxi home, and on the way to the hospital, I was just trying to make conversation with him. I was like, hey, what do you do for work? He's like, I own a roofing company. I was like, how much do you pay your employees? So he told me, and he's like, why, are you looking for a job? And at that point, I think I realized I was done doing door-to-door sales. So I was like, actually, yeah. And this guy ended up giving me a job, and that job was a big turning point in my life. It allowed me to save up some money to go to Europe and do some exciting stuff over there. He ended up being an investor on one of my records.
See?
I learned to trade from him and gained a lot of confidence through that experience, and eventually shed my fear of dogs that I did have for a few years after that. But shitty circumstance, that was terrifying. And, I'm still scarred by it, but, grateful that it happened.
Imagine if you didn't have that conversation.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time, man. That's why, I don't get hung up on shit. Like, man, we could turn right and our whole life has changed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy that you're even here right now.
Yeah,
I mean, just think about how we met.
that's right.
Like, if you hadn't been walking on Abercrombie, if I hadn't been like, yo, you want to come just check out this store?
Imagine if I didn't like bougie ass coffee for $7.
Oh, man. So it is pretty crazy the way that things just work out.
But also imagine if I wasn't open to it. I'd be like, why is this fucking guy trying to talk to me?
Exactly, yeah. Well, and it really makes you wonder, too, what things have I maybe missed out on because I was closed off? Because I've been closed off before. There's been periods of my life where I'm super open and receiving to what life brings, and then there's other times. Like I have this perfect example of this. I was in Santa Barbara, and there's a place that I love up in Santa Barbara. It's called Wild Works, and they are they brew hard kombucha and mead.
Okay.
And they're like a little brewery on State Street. They do like music and poetry and all these live events. Super cool space. Like they are really activating it for the community. And the guy who owns it, he's just this very eccentric dude. And I remember running into him at the farmer's market. And we were just talking. And this guy's so, like, he's amazing, but he's very scattered. And he was like, oh, I'm having this event. And oh man, I probably should print out some flyers for that event. And he's like, oh, mate, that place is just around the corner. He's like, do you mind watching the tent real fast while I go in? And I had some other things that I needed to do. And this guy doesn't even know me, really. Like we've had like one other conversation. He's asking me to watch his whole stand at the farmer's market.
See, you're trustworthy.
And sell it. Clearly he was willing to trust me with that. But in that moment, I was like, I need to actually do some other things. It was a bit of a side quest. So I turned him down. I was like, yeah, I can't do that for you. But it makes me wonder, man, what would have happened if I had said yes to this bizarre situation?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think about it all the time as well. Because, like, let's be real. I'm covered in tattoos. Like that is a
man.
Get the fuck away from me like situation, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, less and less. You're in LA, so
sure. Well, I mean, but
other parts
think
of the
about when I
country.
started. I started getting tattoos in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right, and and I was also like working in kitchens and probably had like a tough guy attitude, and it was definitely a thing of armor, right? And it's like. I was closed off. I closed myself off from everyone.
Yeah.
Right. It hasn't. I don't know. I probably have missed out on so many things, but that's why now, every single day, I'm trying to be open. You know, I want to see what's out there. I want to be ready for it.
Yeah. Well, and now you got so many things going on.
Yeah.
I keep on seeing all this stuff of you on TV.
Yeah.
What's been going on with that? You were on Food Network recently, or
so I do a lot of work with Food Network. I used it back in the day. I used to do a lot more, and it was just something I kind of fell out of love with. But this last year, I've filmed over 4 shows.
Sweet.
Yeah,
all on Food Network.
All on Food Network.
Okay, cool. What are the shows?
So,
can you talk about it?
Yeah, we got currently airing right now, Tournament of Champions 4, which is a Guy Fieri show.
Sweet.
We have.
I would love to meet Guy Fieri.
Oh man, he is amazing. He's my man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
He's doing great things for me, but also great things for the industry. He raised so much money during COVID.
Really?
Oh man.
For like restaurants?
For the relief of restaurant relief. Oh,
that's
man.
awesome.
20-30 million. Check it out.
Holy
Yeah,
shit. Wow,
crazy.
That's incredible.
That's where, I think a lot of chefs probably, thought he was a caricature, right? Because he didn't go through the Michelin kitchens or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like the nonsense. But like, man, if you're a chef out there and you don't like Guy Fieri, go fuck yourself. Like what he did for the industry, get over it, man.
He's incredible.
He's the man. So, Tournament of Champions, in April, we're in April right now. April 16th, I believe. Alex versus America.
Okay.
I'm on that. In the next few months, let's see. We'll have Guys Grocery Games. I do a tournament.
Nice. Where like you're running through with the shopping cart and grabbing everything.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
I also judge on there for an episode or 2.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. I'm doing Guys Ranch. Whoa. So yeah, Guy's taking care of me. I owe him everything. It's like I'm paying him. No, but yeah. So I'm going up to his ranch in a few weeks and cooking.
That's sweet. Is it in California?
Yeah, Northern California, out in the middle of nowhere. I think he has like 50 acres.
Amazing.
Yeah, or 250 acres.
That's
something.
the dream.
You know, a lot of acres. He's got a lot of acres.
Yeah.
I just filmed a few weeks ago the Beachside Brawl.
Okay.
Which was in Redondo Beach.
Nice.
So yeah, I got quite a bit of TV going on.
What is that? What's the Beachside Brawl?
It's one of these shows where they pin East Coast chefs versus West Coast chefs.
Oh, cool.
And then they have a mentor, and and then the mentor at the end, I guess, is the winner, right?
Yeah.
And so
That's sick.
pretty cool show.
Are you one of the contestants?
I was a judge on that.
Oh, you're the judge.
Yeah,
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
That's super cool. You like doing the TV stuff and
You know, it took me a long time to actually really enjoy it, but
Yeah.
I think it took me a long time to really enjoy myself and who I am, right? And I don't think I loved myself, and I don't think I liked myself, and I think I didn't even know myself,
Yeah.
right? And it wasn't for the last, and if it wasn't for the last couple of years, I don't think I would know myself, right? And so I like it. Yeah, I like it because I get to be. So for the longest time, I always joked that there was TV Nate, and then there was regular Nate, right? And then over the last couple of years, I'm starting to realize that TV Nate might be the ideal Nate, the person who I've always wanted to be, but the person I never allowed myself to be.
Huh.
You know, because I was insecure, I wanted to be a tough guy or whatever, right? I never allowed myself to fully give. And so I held myself back, right? And I always called it TV Nate. And you know, it was definitely, there's a difference, right? And I think today you're seeing the best version of Nate. So
it's funny, man. Like the way that you describe yourself in the past just seems so different than the person I'm sitting with in here. And I feel like that's incredible.
So different.
That personal transformation.
So different. And that's why, you know, when you hear people are like, oh, they change. It's like, yeah, good. Good, man. It's like, I used to like that band when they were lit. It's like, well, that's dumb because, you know, do you think they set out to not be successful? It's like, why would you hold them down? Like, stop thinking that way, man.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think if you would have talked to me 10 years ago, yeah, we would not have had this conversation, right? I would have been like, I don't know. It would have been a contentious situation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. It's almost kind of curious. I mean, one thing that I really like about this is when we do these, it's like a time capsule.
Yeah.
It's like a snapshot. It's a moment in time that's archived, that's out there. It'd be interesting to be able to compare. But a soundbite from 10 years ago to today versus 10 years in the future.
But think about 5 years from now. If I'm saying the same thing 5 years from now, man, I lost. I did something wrong, right? And oh God, I hope that's not true. I hope I'm not sitting here saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. I hope. And also, it's, you know, whenever you're interviewing for a job or, you know, it's like, where do you want to be in 5 years? It's like, has anybody ever followed up with that question? Where are they in 5 years? Are they there?
Yeah.
The other thing that struck me odd, that has nothing to do with anything, but the other day I was driving along the highway and I saw a person who clearly ran out of gas. They were walking with a gas can up the highway. Struggle, right? But I thought to myself, somebody who is so prepared to have a gas can in your car is the same person who ran out of gas? Man, that blew my mind.
Maybe they had walked all the way to the gas station.
No, I saw him walking away from the car.
Yeah, okay, that is
crazy.
Yeah.
That's not the same person. So
dang.
Interesting.
I ran out of gas one time on the 10. It was on my motorcycle though.
That's
no gas gauge because it's an old bike. Yeah. Called up a friend. It was in the middle of the night too.
Oh.
That's how you know someone's a true friend.
Yeah.
Called up my friend Liz, can you?
And she got you.
She got me. Yeah.
Good.
I watched Netflix on the divider barrier in the middle of the 10, the middle of the night, just hoping I didn't get hit.
Yeah.
I wish I remember what I watched, but
you could probably check. Netflix has the data.
Oh, I'm sure. Our data is there's so much data
that nobody knows what to do with
out there.
Yeah, it's just being collected.
That's why data science is such a big industry.
Yeah, but it's so subjective. You can,
well, yeah, it's interesting.
Like you can make it read how you want it to read.
Yeah, or how your investors would like it to read.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually really fascinated by all that. I'm also fascinated by that in terms of the restaurant industry too. Collecting more data points within the restaurant.
Well, it's becoming harder.
And yeah,
because DoorDash owns it, right? Like, or Uber Eats owns it. They don't share their data.
Well, I'm thinking
you don't even know your customer.
I'm thinking actually within the restaurant itself, like all of that stuff aside. I don't know. I'm really curious about the ways that industry is going to change, because I think there's definitely inefficiencies that still exist within restaurants
For sure.
that can be tightened, that can be eliminated. And now, to some extent, sometimes that's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like if you're working at a company where they're too intense about that stuff, it can suck the air.
Yeah, no, you need a balance, back to balance.
It's all about
right?
it's all about balance.
Yeah.
But at the same time too, it's such a tight industry. It's so hard to make money in that industry. If you take the same amount of money you would invest in the restaurant industry and put it in any other industry, you're probably going to make way more money, because at the end of the day, it's a next chapter. That's right. Well, anyways, restaurant friend, Chef Luca, talking about how it's harder. He feels like it's hard to get cooks. He feels like it's hard to get people on the line here. And there's a different mentality versus kitchens in Europe.
Oh my gosh. So different.
Australia.
So different.
And I can't help but wonder if that's part of it too. That dichotomy of like, you're making so much more front of house.
I'm not sure that is the play on that. I think it may be, us in the United States, we're just I think we're further ahead of, being individuals, right? It's like every single one of us is going to be a star, you know what I mean? Versus when you enter the kitchen in Europe, let's say European cooks, you're going, because that's going to be your profession, right? And I would say
totally,
I'd say nowadays, a lot of cooks are going and they're going to be whatever they are going to be, right? It's not their it's
right.
And what I mean by that is, like, you see it all the time. It's like you see the cool apron, right? Mm-hmm. You see the wristbands, you see the gear, you see the hat, you see the thing, and it's like, what, are you here to work? Are you here to TikTok? Are you here to it's like in Europe, I see, you go and you're there to work because, like, but also the style but every profession is different in Europe, I think, right? The lifestyle is different. It's like, man, they don't work as hard. Like, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying, like, they don't value it like we do. You hear it all the time.
Or they value other things.
Yeah, no, that's my point. It's
Most
like,
of them do.
The old trope, which is actually true, is Americans work or live to work, and Europeans work to live.
Yeah,
and it's true. It's like our jobs and our lives commingle, right? Yeah. I try not to, right? I have a work phone. That's red, and I keep it separate from my regular phone. Yeah, and everything on there is, there's no, nothing connects those two phones. Yeah, right. I try to do that myself, but our lives are intermingled with our vocation and profession. It's like when you meet somebody, it's like, oh, what do you do? It's like, can you imagine? It's like if someone asked me what I do, and I'm like, well, I'm a father to 2 kids. I'm a loving husband. My wife's a doctor. She's a PhD scientist. Yeah. And man, I love cooking for them every single night. Can you imagine getting an answer like that? Because that's the truth.
You should say that.
Because that's the truth.
Yeah.
But the answer that everybody's looking for is like, I'm a chef.
Yeah.
It's like, that's so fucking sad, man.
Well, it's interesting that we ask that too.
Yeah.
We have this need to categorize.
And we expect that answer.
Yeah.
I do it.
I'll
do it
ask
myself.
People,
yeah.
What do you do?
But I'm conscious of it now. I'm like, how do I ask this question? Because I don't necessarily want to know what they do. I just want to know them. And like, so I think I'm teaching myself to be better about that. Right. Like, how do I get to know Sheldon better than, the thing that I'm assuming defines you.
Right.
That's a bad assumption.
Yeah. I like to tag on the for fun. What do you like to do for fun sometimes? Because I feel like that will give me something. Because honestly, I mean, you meet so many people in LA and they tell you what they do. And then it's like,
I'm an actor.
Does it really matter? Like, you're an engineer, you're an actor, you're whatever. It's like, cool. We're
but
standing in this place together
right
at this point in time.
But like you're an actor, like 45 minutes away, just happens to be 3 miles down the street, and that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But so I'm with you. But I want to help change that conversation, right? And so the more that I talk about it, the more you'll think about it, the more that we can go out and spread that.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because, and I could be hypocritical, right? Like when I know I balance between being a hypocrite and not when I say things like, a chef doesn't define who I am, because everything I have in life is probably given to me because I'm a fucking chef, so it's so hypocritical in a way, but at the same time, like, man, that's not who I want you to view me as. I want you to know me as like the person you just got to know today.
Yeah.
TV Nate.
Which
happens to be the best version of Nate today.
Yeah.
Right?
And now podcast Nate.
Yeah.
You're thinking about doing a podcast, right?
I am. I like
What's the thought? What do you want it to do?
So I kind of was brainstorming about a podcast, and I kind of want to break it down into like the things that interest me, but also like, I mean, not a progression of a meal, but like kind of the progression of how I think about food, like what's new, right? Like, so you could think about that in like an R&D sense of like, oh, what's in the industry, what's out there, and talk about that, or what's new, like some fucking new shoes that I have, or, whatever. And then you could end it with, I don't know, dessert or whatever. Like you can figure a tie in to where it's definitely food related. It's definitely meal based. It's, I'm not sure, but I definitely want to be able to spread the things that are in my head.
Yeah. Podcasts are a great way to do it.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's also a lot of limitless potential to do whatever.
And it's a time capsule. I love how you said that. It's like it captures that moment in time to where you can go back and look and be like, yes or no, that was what I believe, or that's what I believe in now. Like I have a cookbook from 2008.
Yeah,
man,
I want to see this cookbook. That's sweet, man.
I read that thing and I think, who wrote this?
Yeah,
who wrote this? Like, I don't cook like that anymore. I don't think like that anymore. And I'm so happy about that.
Yeah,
and sure, I had to come to terms with people out there reading that, thinking that those are still my beliefs. Like, that's a hard thing, and like, that's the danger of capturing a time capsule or doing the thing. It's like, but without the understanding that that is that time and place,
right?
I think you could easily judge somebody incorrectly, because if you were judging me who I am in that book or with the cook I am, it's not who I am today.
Yeah. Well, and that's the cool thing about a podcast is it shows that progression over time, the change over time. Years and years and years of
that's right, because
podcasting.
5 years from now, we're going to sit here and answer the questions.
Yeah. AI will have already taken over the world.
Yeah. Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Man, it's a good question.
What is 5 years from now? Let's see.
2028.
2028? Okay, let's do this. Wow. 5 years from now, I will be living bi-coastally.
Hey, nice.
Because
I like that.
My wife wants to desperately move back to New York. She was born and raised in Manhattan, in Hell's Kitchen, and thinks the entire world revolves around it, which is pretty much true about New York, but there's this thing called California that really has my love, And so 5 years from now, bi-coastal.
Yeah.
There you go. I said it.
I like that. I love New York, man. I really want to live in New York at some point in time.
Oh, I do too. My son was raised there for the most part, even though he's definitely more California-esque.
Yeah.
Which I love. He's a very nice young lad.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Man, I think in 5 years, there's a lot that can happen. I mean, in 5 years, this is what I want. I want to be still podcasting.
Okay.
On the road.
All right.
In a converted box truck.
Okay.
Totally retrofitted, souped up, like epic, with the podcast studio in the box truck. Just traveling, playing music, still making records, still playing shows, and hopefully have a couple. There's a book that I'm self-publishing this year that I wrote several years ago.
This is big.
That needs to have been out by then, And ideally, I'd love to have, I mean, the dream of mine has always been to have 100 acres.
Okay.
100 acres with some friends, have some tiny homes, just like, little oasis.
You know the musician Belinda Carlisle?
I know the name, but
I'm probably butchering this. Anyway, is Belinda Carlisle an old artist?
I think so.
Okay, there's a new art. Brandy
Carlisle?
Brandy Carlisle?
I don't
No,
know.
so she built she has like a compound for like, a couple of her bandmates
sick.
have houses there. It's big
Incredible.
acres, right?
Yeah.
But like that is cool. And so my wife also talks about that, having a compound for her family.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's the dream, man. Just a
Yeah.
place where you can build whatever you want.
Yep.
You can have a shop. I mean, I'm thinking through my own lens
Right.
here.
No,
Like,
as you should.
I would love to have a shop where I can just build anything that I want. Because I build a lot of stuff.
And
I
you
love
grow things.
growing things, have some animals, some small scale agriculture.
I like it.
And just all my friends.
Yeah.
Just living simple, chill life.
So-
self-sustainable.
So what you're saying is, if I could deduce this, you want to surround yourself with the people that you love and love you, and do the things that you're passionate about.
100%.
Okay.
If
5
I'm-
years. If you're not doing that,
If I'm not doing, I mean, let's be honest. If I'm not doing at least a shadow of that on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
then I'm doing it wrong.
That's right.
If I'm not surrounding myself with the people that I love and who love me
So you remember
and doing
that
the things that I love.
for the next 5 years,
Yeah.
because you got to work towards the thing that you actually said. So
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah, man. It's a crazy process. But also too, I feel like there's an importance of, at the same time of having a goal and like an orientation, also just taking each
Living
day
life, man.
like
Yep.
at a time, being
Yep.
so grateful for it.
Because if you're only focused on that, you're gonna miss out. I totally
Yeah.
agree. Yep.
Yeah. And there's so many amazing things
Yeah.
all around us every day, all the time.
And also, your environment changes every day.
Yeah.
Your feelings change every day. The people around you change every day. So
Yeah.
5 years from now, you may not want the same thing that you want today, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay.
I'll be
As long as you're surrounding yourself with the people that you love and love you and supporting you in the things that you're doing.
yeah. It's kind of trippy to think I'll be 33 in 5 years.
Wow. I'll be 48. But I look younger than you.
It's the beard. No. Yeah, maybe I'll have a little white.
Yeah.
A little white
You
in
like
mine.
that, right?
It's the wisdom. It's the 12-hour shifts.
Kids, family.
Oh,
anything?
all
those.
all of those things as well too.
You're gonna have kids, family. You want all that?
I do. Yeah, I want
Yeah,
to have kids. I want to have a family. I think it's important.
Oh man, so do
I feel like
especially if you get married. It's like, why get married if you're not gonna have a family?
yeah, I don't think I would get married unless I was gonna have a family.
Right.
Because I feel like I'd just be too busy
Yeah.
off doing my own thing.
Yeah. It's like, I got friends. It's like,
Yeah.
I got people to hang out with.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I've always known I wanted to have a family. I grew up with a big family too, like a lot of cousins, a lot of aunts and uncles, and super close with everybody. And so, ever since I was a kid, I knew that I just loved being around family. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Do you have a big family?
I do. We've either been spread out or, lost touch or, things have happened or whatever. But, my core family that I have now are everything for me.
Yeah.
And my wife's family has become my true family.
Wow.
Yeah. Like her sisters, her brother, her mom, I talk to them weekly.
Mhm.
Right. And like, man, I could call her mom at any time. And that's
amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Do you think that you'll ever open up a restaurant again?
Never.
Never again.
Not on my own.
Yeah.
Not a traditional restaurant. No, never. No, never, never, ever.
Yeah.
Now, would I help another individual, achieve their dream?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Right. Would I support that? Sure. Through investment, mentorship, whatever have you.
Mhm.
Will I be a chef of a restaurant? No. Will I outright own a restaurant? No.
Yeah.
No. I love my kids. I love my wife.
Mhm.
I love my life. I love coming here, hanging out with you.
Yeah, man.
Right? These are all things, as you know, cannot be done with the current situation that the restaurant industry has given us.
Yeah. Yeah, it demands a lot.
Yep.
It demands a lot.
It's unfortunate.
And beautiful at the same time.
Sure, but it's just we got to find a better way. We have to find a better way.
Yeah. Trying to find that balance. I think it's possible. It takes innovation.
Not only to take innovation, it takes people being okay with being uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because you order the same thing every single day because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Love my California rolls, man.
Right. Now, imagine if next week, you're presented with rattlesnake and that's the only protein
I have
you
had
can have.
rattlesnake
It's
before.
Like, are you going to get down? Are you going to look at it differently if it's the only protein you can have next week?
I mean, if it was the only, at this point,
Right?
I would eat anything.
Right? You'd think about it differently. It's like, but right now, you don't want goat. You don't want rattlesnake.
It wouldn't be
right?
my go-to.
That's right.
Like, I just went to Whole Foods and picked up some ground beef.
Yeah. Not rattlesnake.
Not rattlesnake.
Yeah.
No. Not even bison. Ground beef.
Ground beef.
Because that's what I eat.
Balance.
Well, yeah.
Also, a cow has 50% of the carcass is ground meat. So you are doing work. You're doing good work by eating the ground beef. It's a necessity to the system. So you can also think about it like just like data can be read anything, I can justify anything.
I like that justification.
But no, that is true though. It's like 50% of the cow is ground meat. It's got to be used. If it doesn't get used, it gets thrown away. And all the gases that went into our environment from them farting and doing all the thing it was for nothing. So
eat that ground beef.
Get that burger tonight, man.
I love that. That's hilarious. What advice would you give to somebody? I feel like the conversation we've had today applies to people beyond the restaurant industry.
I would agree.
But specifically, maybe the advice would be the same, but somebody who's in the world of restaurants, whether they're back of house, front of house, restaurant, whatever they are, what advice would you give to somebody who is in that industry right now?
Wow. Well, luckily I get to live in a real life situation, right? Like I have employees that work at Farmesa that I get to mentor and, I get to answer these questions.
Mm-hmm.
I have somebody who works for me named Sam and he wants to become a cook and a chef and, all these things. And I'm like, okay. So I give him little tasks like, hey, go research Thomas Keller. Tell me who he is, right? And he comes back and we have a conversation. Yeah. And like that builds, right? And so what advice? I would say find people that have the knowledge that you don't, right? And be okay with being the first person to raise your hand to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Because all the things that I missed out on in life were because I was not confident. I was not willing to be vulnerable. I was not willing to raise my hand and be like, hey, I don't know. Right? And so my advice to the generation that are coming up in the restaurant today is to be the first person to raise your hand and say, I don't know, show me. Right? Because one, you're going to show everybody that, man, you're open. Right? And two, you're there to learn.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing because when you're met with somebody who doesn't want to learn, it's like it creates that barrier in between and it's just an awkward situation, even though you really do want to learn or you wouldn't be there. Right. And so I guess just being okay and being vulnerable and being uncomfortable, right. Being okay with being uncomfortable and like also being a leader and that is a leader in itself. Right? Like identifying the things that you don't know and then trying to know them. I think it's important.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah. I love it. I think that's important advice. That's something I've had to learn because it doesn't come naturally.
Yeah.
Because naturally I want to be like saving face and be like, oh, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you want to save face. Right.
But really, I think that the best things come when you're just honest. You're like, hey, I actually don't know how to do this. Can you just... I just got to be honest about that. I'm here to learn.
But like, look at every other walk of life. I know people talk about this all the time. It's like, man, Michael Jordan had Phil Knight, right? Like not every CEO out there in America in the Fortune 500 company has a coach, but I would say a larger percentage of CEOs in the Fortune 500 list have coaches,
Mm.
right? Because it's presumptuous to think that somebody knows how to be a CEO.
Yeah.
Just like it's presumptuous to
Totally.
think that Michael Jordan can run a team by himself or like
Yeah.
run, play basketball by himself.
Yeah.
Like it's dumb. It's stupid. It's like, but we aren't okay ourselves having coaches. We aren't okay ourselves, telling people that we go to therapy, right? It's like, therapy is viewed as a negative. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
Like,
That's definitely changing. I think
it's changing.
people are becoming more open to it.
But even like look at I read a lot of newspapers. I look at lawsuits and stuff all the time, and it's like people use they went to therapy as like a negative and it's like, wait a minute, you should be heralded, like you should be saying like,
Right,
oh my God,
yeah.
they went to therapy, thank God, man.
Yeah.
That person tried to become a better mother. That person tried to become a better father. A better version of themselves, but instead it's like, man, they went to therapy because they couldn't control themselves, or they were this, or they were that, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, let's celebrate that. TikTok once again taught me something a few weeks ago. Check this shit out. I'm about to drop some knowledge.
You got a
on
better algorithm than mine.
No, I do.
I'm not getting anything good from TikTok.
Yeah. So, right here, you got see that guy up there, Albert Einstein?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You see him? Is that your book? Do you read it? You haven't. You looks like
Oh, that one right there.
You're
You know
25
what?
pages in.
Yeah, that one's my brother's.
Okay.
I have not actually read that one.
Okay, so check this out. This guy
Calling me
behind
out.
me. This guy behind me.
Yep.
Smart guy, right?
Yeah.
He was a professor, right? Fucking highest IQ ever, supposedly. He was teaching a class one day, and I learned this on TikTok. This is the craziest thing. He was teaching a class to a bunch of really smart students because he wasn't teaching elementary school.
Yeah.
And on the board, he put 9 times 1 equals 1. 9 times 2 equals 18. 9 times 3 equals 27. Went all the way to 9 times 10 and wrote 91. And the whole class started laughing at him. Started making fun of him. This is the smartest motherfucker anybody ever knows. And he wrote 9 times 10 equals 91, and they all started laughing at him.
Yeah.
Put his chalk down, turned around and was like, I put 9 correct answers on the board, and not one of you said a thing. I put 1 wrong answer, and every single one of you jumped on me. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. We're quick to hate.
That's right.
We're quick to judge.
That's right.
We're not as quick to congratulate.
That's right. Because we're scared that somebody else is going to get the credit, or we're scared that somebody's going to look better. And that, I try to tell people all the time that holds you back. It's going to hold you back.
Yeah.
So I really strive for that myself, to not allow myself to hold myself back.
Congratulate other people.
Yeah.
And give love.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
Try it next time, like when a telemarketer calls you and you don't want to talk to that telemarketer because you hate him. Try it. Give him a chance, man. Give him 2 minutes of your day.
Yeah.
Tell me how you feel at the end of that 2 minutes. And if you feel like shit,
Yeah.
then you're a shitty person. But if you feel better about your day and that person feels better about your day.
Yeah. Honestly, the irony is you're probably right. You probably do feel better because when I get a call from a telemarketer,
You treat them like shit.
I'm pissed no matter what.
Fuck yeah.
Because as soon as I hang up, I'm still pissed.
Yeah.
I'm like, why the fuck did that guy call me?
Yeah. Imagine. Change the scenario, right? Imagine
Yeah.
like, oh man, thanks for calling me today. Hey, you good? How you doing? You know what? Whatever, man.
Yeah.
Whatever. Get off the phone in a good way and see how it makes you feel.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah. It's those little reframing moments
Yep.
that probably add up to make big changes in our lives.
What's the difference between good and great? A bunch of these, man. That much. Right? Same thing in the other way. Death by 1,000 cuts, right?
Yeah.
When you're scaling a business and you start making those little tweaks, like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just, this parsley is just, a little bit worse than the other parsley, right? And then you apply that to 10 ingredients, and then you have this much
of a problem.
where before you had this much of a problem.
Yeah. Words of wisdom.
Yeah, I'm dropping knowledge.
I like it.
There
I'm
it
here for
is.
it, man. Dude, Nate, where can people find where do you want people to go to?
Come and visit me at Instagram.
Okay.
Nappleman. I have a couple Instagrams, check it out, but Nappleman's my main one. Follow along. I have a website. You can check that out too. But yeah, Instagram.
Okay, Instagram. And then also come and eat.
Yeah, come and eat at
Farmesa.
Farmesa in Santa Monica.
3rd Street Promenade.
Yeah.
It is really good food.
Thank you. It's the food that I want to eat. Like, and you know, I've gotten to a point where I'm jaded on many things that I cook because like, I'm sure you make songs and you're like, fuck, I hate music, right? Or whatever. It's like same thing. It's like I cook things all the time. I'm like, not good, not good, not good.
Yeah.
I'm eating this food every day and I'm like, man, this is good. So I think not only is it because I'm happy with myself and I know who myself am and I can be comfortable with the things that I'm cooking and putting out there in the world, I can appreciate the things that I'm actually doing, right? And so I think that's also a good thing to look at, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, celebrate the wins, the little ones.
Absolutely, man. Dude, it's been a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank
I feel
you.
like there's a lot that I'm going to take away from this when I go back and listen to the whole thing. And I'm excited for everything coming down the pipeline for you. And I'm excited to see where it all goes. So
Awesome.
We'll see where we're at in 5 years. So
yeah.
Dude, thank you so much, man. And
thank you.
Hopefully we'll do it again sometime. So.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Spring Street Podcast. If you'd like to support the show, sign up for the Patreon to receive exclusive behind-the-scenes content and check out the sponsor links in the description.